There's a strange loneliness that comes from feeling like you've spent your entire life standing slightly outside of everyone else. Not rejected, exactly, just unreachable. I think some people move through the world naturally understanding connection. They know how to exist inside conversations, relationships, friendships, families. They know how to settle into life without constantly questioning whether they belong inside of it. And then there are people that just aren't like that. People who spent most of their lives feeling more like observers than participants. Like they're standing just outside the glass, watching everyone else connect effortlessly to a world that never fully opened itself to them. I've spent years wondering if maybe I was simply built differently like this. Not broken, just tuned to a different frequency than everyone around me. Because no matter how many people came and went throughout my life, something always felt missing. Not attention, not affection. Recognition. Real recognition. The kind where another person looks at you and somehow understands the shape of your inner world without you having to translate all of it into words. And maybe that's impossible. Maybe nobody ever fully reaches anybody completely. But I think some of us spend our entire lives trying anyway. I think that's why stories started meaning so much. Movies, music, characters, imaginary worlds. Because somewhere along the way, we start finding pieces of emotional truth inside those things that can't seem to be found anywhere else. A song could understand them better than a conversation. A film could leave them feeling more seen than the people sitting beside them. And over time, those worlds started becoming more emotionally real than reality itself. Not because they hated reality, but because fiction, somehow, felt closer to the truth. This is Cruz, and this episode is called Never to Be Seen. For me personally, as I got older, I started realizing something strange. The worlds I carried inside my head were becoming larger than the one around me. And I don't just mean imagination, I mean emotionally. Certain memories became entire places I could revisit. Certain songs started feeling tied to versions of myself that no longer existed. Certain films, certain characters, certain moments stayed with me longer than most real conversations ever did. And eventually I stopped asking myself why. Because the truth is, those things made me feel something real. They made me feel understood. Not literally, but emotionally. There are people out there who hear a piece of music and simply think it sounds good. And then there are people who hear a piece of music and feel it attach itself to their soul forever. People who can hear a melody 20 years later and instantly remember who they were when they first heard it. The room, the lighting, the season of life they were in, the feeling they had sitting in their chest at that exact moment. The version of themselves that no longer exists. I've always envied people who could simply experience things and let them go. Because I never could. Everything stayed with me. Movies stayed with me. Words stayed with me. Moments stayed with me. Even small things. The sound of a television late at night when I was younger. Rain hitting a window during a quiet afternoon. A streetlight glowing outside during a car ride home. A certain expression on someone's face. A song playing during a moment that nobody else around me would even remember. All of it stayed. And over time, those fragments started becoming their own kind of reality. I think some people are naturally wired to live very deeply inside emotion and memory. Maybe too deeply, because eventually the inner world starts developing more weight than the outer one. And that's a strange thing to carry, especially when nobody around you seems to experience life that way. You start feeling isolated even in rooms full of people. you start realizing that most conversations never move beyond the surface, and slowly, you stop trying to explain yourself. Because how do you explain to someone that a piece of music changed your life? How do you explain why a fictional character feels more emotionally real to you than most people you've ever known? How do you explain the strange grief of missing versions of yourself that no longer exist, or maybe never did? Most people would hear those thoughts and move on, but some of us never really move on from anything. We carry entire emotional timelines inside ourselves. And I think that's why imagination became so important to me. Not because reality meant nothing, but because imagination gave shape to feelings I could never fully communicate any other way. In stories, people say the things we wish someone would say to us, or we wish we could say without fear. Moments carry meaning. Connection feels destined. Love feels eternal. Even loneliness feels beautiful sometimes. And real life rarely moves that way. Real people are distracted, complicated, exhausted, disconnected from themselves and from each other. Sometimes they hurt us without even realizing it. Sometimes they sit beside us for years without ever truly seeing us at all. And after enough time, you start retreating further inward, not intentionally, almost instinctively. You begin building a world inside yourself where the emotional language finally makes sense. A world where longing feels beautiful instead of isolating. A world where memories never fully die. A world where someone, somewhere, might finally understand the things you could never completely explain out loud. And I think eventually, that's where creation comes from, at least for me. I don't think I started creating things because I wanted attention, or fame, or even success. I think I started creating because I was trying to reach someone, anyone, not in a loud way, not in the way people normally think about being seen. I mean emotionally. I think there's a difference between wanting people to notice you and wanting someone to recognize you. To recognize the signal beneath everything, the feeling, the loneliness, the longing, the parts of yourself you've never fully been able to say out loud, and never truly will. And after years of failing to find that connection naturally in life, I think I started pouring it into stories instead, into characters, into worlds, into music, into conversations that didn't really happen, but emotionally felt real to me anyway. Because creation became the one place where I could finally speak the language I had spent my entire life thinking in. And maybe that sounds strange, but I think a lot of artists secretly do this. They build worlds because the real one never fully held them correctly. They create characters who understand each other deeply because they've spent years feeling misunderstood themselves. They write love stories because they're trying to touch something they've never completely been able to hold on to in real life. And eventually, the line between creation and confession starts disappearing. That's the strange part. Because after enough time, the things you create stop feeling fictional. They start feeling like fragments of yourself scattered across different worlds. Pieces of grief, pieces of hope, pieces of memory, pieces of longing. That's why some creators become so emotionally attached to their work. Because eventually, the work stops feeling like a product. It starts feeling alive. Not literally, but emotionally. Like these worlds are carrying versions of you that reality never fully allowed to exist. The softer version of you, the hopeful version, the romantic version, the version that still believes connection is possible, the version still trying to be understood. And when people dismiss creative work as just stories, I don't think they realize how much of a person can actually be hidden inside what they create. Sometimes an entire lifetime is sitting quietly beneath a single line of dialogue, a single scene, a single melody, a single image. Sometimes the art itself becomes the conversation the creator never successfully had with the world around them. I think that's why silence around creative work can hurt so deeply. People assume artists are only chasing numbers, sales, followers, recognition. But sometimes what they're really chasing is evidence that the signal reached another human being at all. Evidence that somewhere out there, another person paused for a moment and quietly said, "I know this feeling." Because when you spend most of your life feeling emotionally unreachable, creation starts becoming more than expression. It becomes transmission, a way of leaving pieces of yourself behind in the hope that someday, somewhere, someone might finally understand the shape of your inner world, even if only for a moment. And the hardest part of all of this is the fear that maybe the signal never reaches anyone, that maybe you spend your entire life trying to translate yourself into stories, music, memories, conversations, art, and somehow still remain invisible. I think that fear lives inside a lot more people than we admit. The fear that no matter how much love we give, how much we explain ourselves, how much of our soul we pour into the things we create, nobody ever fully sees us, not completely. And after enough years of carrying that feeling, something inside you starts changing. You become quieter, more internal. You stop expecting people to understand you. You stop expecting connection to last. Sometimes you even start pushing people away before they can disappoint you. Because disappointment becomes exhausting after a while, especially when your inner world is so vivid, so emotionally detailed, that reality struggles to compete with it. I think that's why loneliness can become strangely addictive, not because it feels good, but because eventually it starts feeling safer than hope, safer than vulnerability, safer than believing someone might truly understand you, only to realize they never really did. And over time, you begin carrying this strange grief that's difficult to explain to anyone else. Not just grief for people, grief for versions of yourself. Versions that wanted more from life. Versions that still believed they would eventually find their place somewhere. Versions that thought connection would feel easier someday. I think many people quietly mourn the person they thought they were going to become. And maybe that's part of getting older too. Realizing life doesn't always transform into the beautiful, emotional narrative we imagined when we were younger. Sometimes it just becomes quieter, smaller, more distant. And that realization can leave people feeling incredibly lost, especially people who feel everything deeply. People who built entire inner universes trying to compensate for what reality never gave them. But even then, even after all of the disappointment, all of the silence, all of the failed connections, something inside us still keeps trying. That's the strange thing. We still listen closely to songs hoping to feel understood. We still revisit old memories trying to reconnect with pieces of ourselves. We still create things. We still leave fragments behind. As if some part of us refuses to completely give up on being found. Maybe that's why certain songs still bring tears to our eyes decades later. Why certain films feel less like entertainment and more like emotional landmarks we continue returning to throughout our lives. Because sometimes art doesn't just distract us from reality. Sometimes it reminds us we were here, that we felt something deeply, that somewhere inside all of the noise and loneliness and distance, there was still a human being trying to connect with the world around them. Maybe that's all any of us are really doing in the end, leaving signals behind, hoping someone else hears the music and recognizes the feeling too. Just a moment where another soul, even through art, quietly reminds them, "You were here, I felt it too." Because sometimes that single moment of connection is enough to keep someone going a little longer. And maybe that's why we continue leaving pieces of ourselves behind, in stories, in music, in memories, in the hope that somewhere, long after we're gone, someone else might stumble across the signal. But then reality sets in around us, and we're forced to recognize that our inner world doesn't always translate well to the outer one. And eventually, we realize the unfortunate truth that some of us are simply never to be seen. Please make sure to explore the rest of the Zephyrus universe, a world built from memory, longing, and the spaces between who we are, who we once were, and who we still hope to become. This is Cruz, reminding you to stay close to the echo. Bye for now.